wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Hightop Sports Monday Mashup. Good to see you. This show is brought to you by BetUS. Gonna have a jam-packed show. We're talking about Alabama handling their business in Wisconsin. The Ducks bouncing back, handling their business against little bro. LSU in a close one against South Carolina. The peeled off one's going to be a fun. We'll talk about that one. The game of the week, the Dogs barely survived. But we'll talk about my thoughts and everyone else's thoughts and opinions. Of course, we've got Cody, the professor, here. I knew he was fired up and ready to go. Oh, Red Bull, no Busch Latte. Good to see that we're making. Nope, Michelob Ultra. Okay. And we've got Derek, the Duck Selmer, in a much happier mental place today. And Cowboy Ty has completely moved on from college football and is full-blown big hat. Raiders get it done with Minshew on. Oh, okay. We are a full-blown.
baby.
We have lost it here, and we are just in shambles at here at Hightop Sports. We're just the drinking. It's unbelievable. We need to get better help back on the show because this is unbelievable. All right, boys. Good to see you.
I tell you, when your favorite team plays like what we did the last couple weeks, I mean that's the only thing I got left.
This is fair. I guess the only one that's not doing poorly is Derek, and he's the only sober one on the show. So they're starting that up a little bit. Well, good to see you, Derek.
Florida State fans and Florida fans have been like holding hands, skipping. I mean, we were a nightmare.
I can't.
Nightmares.
I can't. I was trying to have fun talking smack about FSU, but I can't even do it because Florida looks so bad. But anyways. Let's talk about first order of business, all reliable. If you guys are new, this is the part of the show where we talk about a team that just goes in and handles business. They do what you expect them to do. They keep it. This segment was created on Nick Saban, team that goes in. Wisconsin being a Power 5 school, I think a lot of people expect them to handle it, but they handled it very confidently, especially after that close USF win the week before. So, look, it was good to see Bama and DeBoer to get things rolling again and look sound. I think Milroe was like 12 for 16, 3 touchdowns. They ran the ball effectively. The defense was there. Wisconsin showed a little pushback early on, but ultimately Bama got rolling again. A big win, headed into their bye before they go against Georgia in 2 weeks, which is going to be the ultimate matchup. It's going to see, hey, can Kirby get over the hump? Can DeBoer really solidify himself as the next guy to take over for Alabama? I think that's still in question, whether or not, like, hey, is he going to be the guy, right? That USF game was a little questionable. Although Saban, struggled against USF not too long ago, so maybe he's just falling par for the course. Again, that Bama team looked like the Bama team of old. I forgot that DeBoer was even on the sideline. That's how Bama looked, came on Saturday. Derek the Duck, what did you think about Bama in week 1?
Yeah, if they checked out our Saturday morning show, I said the team I thought that was going to cover for sure was Alabama, and it was just kind of for this reason. They kind of went into Camp Randall and they did exactly what we thought. I thought Jaden Milroe looked like, the Heisman contender he is. I think he had 5 total touchdowns yesterday. He and Jam Miller, they both were in for a combined 6.3 yards a carry yesterday, so they moved the ball on the ground as well. Ryan Williams, the true freshman, only 17. I also didn't know he reclassified. But, he had a big showing yesterday against the Badgers. And then obviously the Alabama defense did exactly what they thought they would do. It didn't help that Wisco lost TVD so early in the game. It was pretty apparent that they were never going to get the pass game going. But Bama is exactly what we thought Bama was. They are the true epitome of all reliable. Year in and year out, whether it's Nick Saban on the sideline or Kalen DeBoer, they still look like the Bama team of old.
I love it. Ty, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's insane to me that Ryan Williams kid is 17. He's out there playing football among his friends. It's absolutely wild. I can't remember what I was doing at 17. But Jalen Milroe did his thing as usual. He absolutely tore it up. He ran all over the place. He was throwing all over the place. I don't think Wisconsin's that good personally, but they handled their business. They went in there. There was nobody jumping around at the end of that. Everybody was jumping out of the gates trying to get home. So they did what they were trying to do.
Well said. Cody, the professor, thoughts on the Alabama Roll Tide handling business? I love Derek had receipts. You got any receipts for us?
Yeah, no receipts, but I'll tell you, I watched that game. My dad's a big UW fan, and I'm going to say this. They did everything that you can't do against an elite team. They fumbled the ball. They had penalties that killed drives. They had, the time of possession was way out of whack, and when you do that, you're not going to beat an elite team. They put up a little bit of a fight in the first and second quarter, and then it just really Bama got rolling. It really got out of hand, and unfortunately, Wisconsin just didn't have the horses to reel them back in.
It looked, again, at that last half of Alabama really seemed to figure it out. Ty Hayes came on, our Alabama representative, on our Saturday show and said, look, they put their right tackle in for starter the last half of the fourth quarter and handled business. And it looks like they just picked up where they left off headed into the Wisconsin game. And it was the first time in 3 weeks we felt like, okay, there's another team in business. Again, people will argue Ohio State. I'm not giving them their flowers yet till they face somebody worth some credibility. And to argue, you can say Bama didn't really play anybody against Wisconsin, but a little more juice than most. And Georgia had a little bit of a struggle, which we'll get into. But ladies and gents, next up we have the rebound team. Now, this team did not lose in week 2, but they did lose in week 1 in a tough one against USC and had themselves an absolute nail biter. They should have lost last week, but handled business in an extremely hostile environment. Let's talk about the rebound team from week 3. That team being, of course, LSU. Kelly keeps rolling there in Louisiana, again, facing themselves in some big adversity. South Carolina punched Kentucky in the mouth week 1. I think they're going to punch LSU, and they should have punched LSU in the mouth come week 3. Their quarterback going down early on in the game did not help them. Raheem Sanders had himself a day, 148 yards on the ground, ran all over that LSU defense, which still seems to be nowhere inexistent. Garrett Nussmeier did have himself a day as well, but a really tough and gritty win for LSU. You got to look, as an LSU fan, it wasn't pretty, but old saying goes, sometimes them tires ain't pretty, but they worked and you got it done. And look, I think it's a good rebound given the fact of what happened against USC, a game you probably should have closed out in 1-2. To close this one out, that was huge for them to be able to close that out. Cody, let's go ahead and go with you on this first. Talking about this rebound, how'd you feel about it?
Yeah, for sure. So LSU squeaks by with a win they probably shouldn't have got. And, lucky that the football gods were looking after them. Some questionable refereeing coming in with a Nussmeier throws a pick. And then obviously the defensive lineman, Kincaid, I think is his name. He gives him a shove to block him.
Ugh.
No, it was not a block in the back. It wasn't even close. It was a clean
Horrible
block.
call. Yeah.
Horrible call. But we've seen a bunch of horrible calls this week. So the Fishers, they got to figure it out. They can't take the game away from them. But South Carolina had once their starting QB went out, they had no answer, and it really, you just saw them fall apart once he did get hurt.
Derek?
Yeah, I think LSU got really lucky to be playing South Carolina this week. It is a hostile environment, but I don't buy into South Carolina at all, to be real honest, despite what they were able to do with Kentucky. And LSU, like the prof said, LSU had no business winning this game. In reality, this was all, South Carolina's game to lose. But like you said, Garrett Nussmeier did play really well. I think he had 285 yards through the air. So they were able to move the ball on offense. But, it's like same rinse, repeat, recycle every week with LSU. Their defense is subpar, if we even want to call it that. I mean, there's holes all over. Their run defense is non-existent. The pass defense is spotty at best. The linebackers are out of whack. It's like they don't know what they're doing on defense. And if that doesn't get fixed, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing LSU in a different segment coming up very shortly.
Yeah, LSU, the last couple of years with Kelly, just seemed to lose the ones they shouldn't lose and find themselves on the outside just looking in. And they have a pretty good team. I think Garrett Nussmeier, isn't obviously Jane Daniels, but not too much of a fall off. Again, defensive was their biggest issue, and they haven't seemed to fix that 3 weeks into the year thus far. Look, me being critical of this team is probably not the best, but I don't got much room to talk.
I do got one thing, and again we see Perkins not in a spot where he is being used. They let him get a couple sacks, and then they pull him. They move him around too much. That kid needs to be on the edge, lined up, stand up or whatever.
Yeah, cut him loose. We talked about it, I think, on one of the shows we had this weekend. Harold Perkins, again, he's a junior now, right? I mean, this is his junior campaign. His freshman campaign was incredible. Had a semi-mid sophomore campaign, and is one of those guys, like, you're trying to do too much with him. And I go back to what Spurrier did with Javion Clowney. It's like, hey, just see ball, hit ball. You know what I mean? Like, just utilize these guys the right way. And I know you want to formulate this guy into a better player, possibly. I don't know, but it's almost like you're hurting his stock more than anything. Ty, what were your thoughts on this weekend, man? Oh, whoops.
I think Brian Kelly always has his offense phenomenal, but his defenses, they are the least physical teams I've ever seen. They get demolished up front. They shouldn't. They have all the talent in the universe. I mean, once again, they might be the rebound team. They got lucky to win this game. If Lenore Sellers doesn't get hurt, I don't think they win that game because Lenore's bringing in Robbie Ashford. He's not a passing threat. All he can do is run the ball. And once again, they were lucky to get the win anyways. And then there was some question officiating, and then they missed the field goal on top of it, sent to overtime. They might rebound, but they're not going to be there later on because they are just not physical enough to compete.
Agreed. Again, it's not a game they should have won, and it's a weird rebound team. But I think, again, they found a way to win, which was important for LSU, and maybe that'll help them build on that, and they can find where they were weak on it. Again, South Carolina, I wasn't high on them, but they've looked the part thus far. I think with the quarterback going down, and I'm not sure how long he's going to be out. It's going to be a huge fault for them. But defensively, I think they played well, although they did give up 33 points. It was not by a lack of effort by any stretch of the imagination. Boys and girls, next up we have our segment, which you like that, which is a team that just goes in there and just handles their business, punches you in the mouth, smacks you around a little bit, and then spits on you on the way out, okay? And that's what this team did this past week, and I know we've got a guy that is absolutely fired up to talk about it. Derek the Duck Selmer is going to be chomping at the bits here. He called his shot on the earlier show this week on Hightop, Oregon. The Ducks were going to go in there and handle business. There was a lot of critique. Haven't looked the part versus week 1 and 2. Haven't looked like that national championship contending team, right? Drop them all the way down to number 9. You've got Duck fans on the limb, or you're just hanging on by a thread. And they go out there and handle it. They go smack little bro Oregon State into the ground, scoring 48, 49 points. Oregon State can barely even get the ball moving. It's good to see Dylan Gabriel handle his business. I've been saying on the show for the last 2 weeks, everyone's ranting and raving about the offensive line. It had its issues. Wasn't the problem. It was the defense. You let Boise State score 34 points. That is your problem. You let the Idaho Vandals score 14 points. That is your problem. They figured that part out. I'm glad Dan Lanning was listening to me and none of you other Duck fans. Derek, what's your thoughts on that big guy?
I'm going to reiterate again. I do think the offensive line was a massive issue. I guess one thing I didn't realize about yesterday's game until I went back and watched it was that we didn't punt at all in yesterday's game. Every time Oregon was able to touch the ball, they were able to score or, end a half. Compared to a Boise State game last week where we punted 7 times. So we finally got a solid lineup in there. Bunch was sliding back to center and Nishad Strother getting a start at right guard. And that just seemed to be the magic key for the Ducks offense. The running game was really clicking. We saw Dylan Gabriel navigate the pocket a lot more cleanly this week. He looked a lot more comfortable. And yes, as you said, the defense did look significantly better this week. I thought the defensive line was going to have a bigger game, and I would say that was probably the one defensive unit that did struggle early on. But once we approached that second half, it was a whole different story. The defensive line was getting pressure constantly. Eventually we forced Oregon State to have to pass the ball, and that's far from their strong suit. And then our secondary played like we would expect. So yeah, Oregon's back. Like I said earlier this week, they were going to go in there and absolutely steamroll little bro, and that's what we did. And I said it last week. I'll say it again. We're going to the Natty boys. You just buckle up. That's what it's going to happen. I'm telling you.
I loved it. It was a good win. You needed to kind of get that under your belt. Look, we talk about the spreads and that they don't really matter about wins and L columns, but it gives you an idea of where the team is mentally, right? Because Vegas has a reason why they put that spread on there, and for you guys to cover it very easily, I think it was like 16 or 17. It changed kind of towards the end there, and you covered it by more than that, almost double that. Shows that you really are handling your business, and it's a big game. It's a rivalry game. Although that Boise State one was too. Massive W. Cody?
Yeah, well, I'm just glad Derek can finally wear shoes again with shoelaces because boy, oh boy, he was not looking good mental health wise the last 2 weeks. Look, I texted him. I said, look like the number 9 team in the nation. Offense started rolling. Defense, there's a couple little things, but they got speed all over the place. I feel like they flow a little too fast. They're very aggressive, and they can be had on some trickery and some reverses and plays looking like they're going one way and then bootleg out to the other. But I will say this, boy, oh boy, watch out Big Ten because Oregon is here to play. And then one last thing I will say, the chainsaws running is probably the corniest thing, minus the rooster cockle-doodle doing at South Carolina. I mean, it's absolutely horrendous. Find something else.
Wow, poor Oregon State just catching strays here. My goodness, Tyler, thoughts?
Yeah, when I was watching the first half of that game, I thought Oregon struggled to tackle very well. I think I even texted you and I was like, they just continue to miss tackles. But as the game went on, they looked like the number 9 team in the country, and they finally come around. And ever since I've been on the show, all I can think about is Derek smiling. He was excited to see that second half. Dylan Gabriel has always looked the part, and his stats have always shown it. But they've always had just miscues here and there, and they got that cleaned up. They stopped that Oregon State run in the second half, and they finally look like the team that we've been hearing for the last 3 weeks. But like God, they don't have to play the Vandals again.
We're done with the state of Idaho.
This show is extremely too toxic here. It's unbelievable the strays that happen constantly on this show. I love it. It's glad to see Derek to have some smiles. This guy was in a dark, deep place over the last few days. So, look, it's fun to see the Ducks do well. And look, I think it was a subtle shot to say that they look like the number 9 team in the country. I think arguably you can put them back into that top 5. I don't think they will jump that dramatically from this win here, but I think it was a pretty sound win for the Ducks to handle their business like they did. Let's go ahead and hop into our sponsors for today, which is, of course, brought to you by BetUS. Now, this is the Hightop Boys parlay coming up for this weekend. We got dicey here, boys. You can see we put $10 on it to pay out $120. And again, when you use the code YouTube150 at betus.com, you get back 150% on your first 2 deposits, then $125 on your third deposit, up to $2,000. So be sure to use the code YouTube150 at betus.com. But here is our wager from BetUS. We did USC minus 5.5. They're playing Michigan. So felt like that Michigan is not it. I think this is disrespectful. They're playing at Michigan. I think USC is going to absolutely roll them. Who took USC in this one? I know we're all representing our own team. Who was USC?
I will gladly take USC because I think it's the easiest bet on the slate.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Then we had Tennessee. That was Cody. Cody's taking Tennessee minus 8. Am I right?
Yeah. Tennessee points in the last 3 weeks than probably all of college football. They are throwing up some absolute juggernaut numbers. Defense looks like it has speed and some very good play. I think they're going to make a serious run, and I think that's an easy bet.
I think I messed up my parlay. You took Utah minus +3 on Oklahoma State, didn't you?
I did take Utah +3. Utah actually has a sound defense, as you can expect. They have one of Sheldon's favorite coaches of all time, and Kyle Whittingham.
Guy's a man.
What can I say? And, I do think there is a decent chance that Cam Rising comes back and plays this week. So if that happens, I think Utah is going to have their way with Oklahoma State. To be honest, I would feel even comfortable taking the Utah money line if Cam Rising is going to play, but we'll see how that one plays out. As for now, Vegas giving me 3. I'm going to take the 3.
If you take 3, it's the same payout, by the way, boys. So you go ahead and fix it. I obviously messed up. I got to put our parlay back in there. Look, Utah, this is a big matchup for the Big 12. This could be a little bit of inside of the Big 12 championship as well with these two teams. Outside of Kansas State, those 3 teams are the highly favored. And Kansas State looked apart on Friday against Arizona. My golly, Avery Johnson looked like him. I think he's got a long way to grow as well. But it's so fun and so electric. Just put the ball in his hands, and what he can do on that football field was amazing. And their defense too. Don't sleep on that defense. They're able to lock down Noah Fafita, the quarterback from Arizona, as well. And then I went out on a limb. We lost the internet. We lost connection here, and I just went rogue with this last pick. Nebraska, I've been high on. I'm excited about them. I went on this whole rant last week about how they're going to be the team that just sneaks into the playoffs because of their schedule. But Illinois. My wife's from Chicago. She always yells "Fight Illini" or whatever it is. I have no clue what she says. I think she's speaking like a different language, but she says. I look over and go, who's in the house? But I hear it, and she doesn't even care. It's just because it represents Chicago. She gets fired up about it. So we support it here in this household. Paul's like 9 points. they're kind of sneaky good. I feel like they might. This is one of those trap games where I think Nebraska, you got little Patty Mahomes, might be a little too big for his britches. I think they get punched in the mouth here. I like giving me 9 points. That is your parlay by the boys, the Hightop boys. Yes,
One
yes, sir.
thing. Stat of the week was Michigan's quarterback Warren not have a ball hit the ground against Arkansas State, but he did have 3 picks. He was 11 of 14 with 3 picks.
That is a pretty
That's
cool
impressive.
stat. That's a cool stat.
I mean, the ball didn't hit the ground. That's impressive. I don't care what you say.
That is good. That is good. I love it. All right, boys. The next segment is brought to you by Peeled Off. Peeled Off is typically a team that Notre Dame was the Peeled Off team last week. Top team. They get lost. They lose it. They lose when they probably shouldn't lose. It's an embarrassing loss. They get peeled off. This one's a special one this week. Okay, this is when somebody's name tag is being peeled off after what happened this week. I just keep jamming out. Bye Napier, the last of Napier. He is gonna have to peel off that head coach tab. Hopefully today, tomorrow, hopefully yesterday, maybe I missed it. I don't know, but the time has come where Napier has to move on from his tenure here at Florida. And again, it doesn't typically fall into the class of being peeled off, but this is a special one for a special occasion, and I'm fired up about it. What is funny is I ran my mouth all season long. He was the highest favorite coach to be fired, 4-1 odds to be the first coach fired. I should have went in on that because it looks like that is going to be the case. Sam Hartman's going to be there. Mike Norvell is in a $19 million year contract. He's not going anywhere. So here's where we stand with Billy Napier getting peeled off. I'm going to wait to give Cody to get fired up. Let's see Derek take some shots while we're here at us about the old Napier.
No, I'm done taking shots. I'm
It's not
nice
even
about
fun
it. I
anymore.
think this one's actually, it's not. I'm starting to feel bad for everybody on this show. Actually, but to be honest, I think it's a good thing ultimately for the University of Florida. I know on Saturday's show we kind of mentioned how there is kind of a silver lining if Florida does lose, and that's Florida, is going to end up taking a step forward in the right direction with a new head coach soon, hopefully. I'm all on the Lane train. I love it. I hope to see him in Gainesville next season. But yeah, Billy just wasn't it, man. It seemed like we kept hearing, just wait, give Billy some time. And as time went on, nothing changed. I would argue that things are getting considerably worse. Obviously I don't know a whole lot about the intricacies of the Florida program, but I do get to see a lot of your guys' interactions and Florida fans on Twitter. And it just seems to be that they've been done with Billy since realistically before the season started. I know you were a big proponent of him, saying we're going to get him, he's going to get it turned around, whatever. Obviously that wasn't the case, but I think you guys are in for much brighter day. Well, I just wanted to remind you what you were saying.
Yeah, nobody else has. I appreciate that.
you guys are in for better days. It's might not come next year. Obviously it's going to be a reloading year next year. Might not be the year after that. I don't know if you guys will ever be back, but if you are ever going to get back, it starts with firing Billy, and that's what's happening. So
all right, you're done. Time, whatever that.
Hired this guy.
Unbelievable. All right, we're gonna go to Ty, our FSU buddy. I mean, our coaches are playing who can hold my beer better. You know what I mean? And I don't know who's winning right now. I feel like you guys do, and then Billy surprises me. But hopefully, we won't have to play that anymore, and Norvell will be stuck holding the beer for the rest of the year. But what are your thoughts on Napier and him possibly being let go?
Listen, I think Billy, just by looking on his face after they were down 20-0 and the chant started, fire Billy, fire Billy, fire Billy. I mean, I could just see the look on his face like, whatever, I don't like it here. I don't want to be here anyways. And honestly, Sheldon, if you offered me $26 million to get the hell off the show, you would never see my ass again. So I'm just saying.
I can promise you ain't gotta worry about that. I'll just hit the red button over here and click mute. You know what I'm saying? You ain't getting $26 million from me, Cody.
Oh boy, here we go. Billy Napier, you promised us the world and you gave us nothing. I will say this. There are some bright spots in what you did. You fixed some parking problems. Glad UF players aren't getting tickets no more. And then, obviously infrastructure, cool, whatever. but you had the Napier Army and you promised and you did not deliver. And you said it yourself. And you said that a talent acquisition business. You acquisitioned the talent and made them worse. You deserve it. You're going to get paid. It is what it is. Sayonara. We'll see you, Lane Kiffin. Can't wait to see you. And I can't wait for that Ole Miss Florida matchup when he hangs 72 on us. It's going to be great.
What are we doing? What is happening here? All right, that's our peeled off segment. This is unbelievable. Let's go into the game of the week. I don't have nothing else. Game of the week, it wasn't a shiny one, but it was a tough one. It was the Dogs holding down Kentucky and Bourbon Country, and by golly, it came down to the wire. There was a lot of good games, to be fair. LSU and South Carolina, the Kansas and UNLV game on Friday night was a great game as well. That was very fun. A lot of good games we could have went to. And you're the number one team up against the ropes, right? After what Kentucky, it was nice to see Kentucky bounce back. I'm not familiar with a team having a bad week and bouncing back. I didn't think that was possible, so that was cool for them to see them do that. Brock Vandergriff found a little bit of a rhythm. And look, I got to give credit where credit's due. Our Hightop Georgia guy, Jack Mack, came on and on our show on, I think it was your Thursday, I believe. He spoke to this. He said, look, Kentucky is 1 for 8 on covering the spread heading into a bye, and they have Bama after the bye. And he goes, we never play well at Kentucky. It just is what it is. It's going to be a weird 16 to 6 game or 14 to 10 or 14 to 3. I mean, he damn near nailed it right on the head of where it ended up being. It was, look, Kentucky's going to play us tough, and that's exactly what they did. People are going to panic, say Georgia looked bad, this is it, blah, 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 blah. It's fine. This is right where Kirby wants them. I've said this about Dan Lanning and 2 when Oregon struggled week 1 and 2. It's fine. You found a way to win. That's what Georgia continues to do. You could have almost argued this to be the over-reliable segment just because they handled business. They got it. They didn't handle it, but they got it done, right? When they probably shouldn't have got it done. And you know damn well, you and I both know, they're all 2 weeks ahead looking at Alabama. I don't care what Kirby says that everybody's looking at that. We're all looking at that game. If we wanted to, we would skip next week because that's the game that everyone has circled. It's the rematch. Is it going to be, can Kirby get over the Bama hump? Was it just the Nick Saban or is it the Bama hump? That's what everyone wants to see, and it's going to be a big one for 2 weeks from now. But I'm not panicking about this. I think Georgia's looked sound for the first 2 weeks. Trevor Etienne had a big run at the end there to kind of put them over the edge. His first year. Hate seeing it, but also happy for him. Derek, what are your thoughts on old Kirby and the Dogs?
Yeah, I think I would just be an extreme hypocrite if I came on here right now and I was like, oh, they struggled with an inferior team, squeaked out a win, so we should panic. Obviously, it's super early in the year. And like you mentioned, it's just one of those weird places to play. And I think every university can kind of attest to that. There's one where you kind of see it on the calendar and they have no business making it a close game, but somehow it is. For Oregon for a long time, that used to be going to Pullman, Washington to play Washington State, or, the Pac-12 after dark and at Arizona State, no matter how bad those teams were, just for whatever reason, they always had Oregon's number. And I think that's kind of what's happening here with Kentucky too. I think Georgia is looking forward to Alabama, and unfortunately in the SEC, you can't really afford to look ahead regarding the week. And in reality, though, I'll give my flowers to Kentucky. I think they obviously should have won that game. I think that pick 6 that got called back was obviously highly controversial. And then we might be having an entirely different conversation here this morning. But, Georgia did what they did. I don't knock them for it. To be honest, I don't drop them in my personal rankings whatsoever. I'm not worried about them. I still have a feeling they're going to win the SEC. Obviously the Alabama game in 2 weeks, I'll have a lot to say about that, but I still think they are the best team in the SEC.
There was a lot of votes for Texas at number 1. I saw for this week coming out, and again, Quinn Ewers goes down. Arch Manning comes in and looks sound as can be. It was UTSA, but still had a big run, blazing speed. Mr. Arch Manning was. Tyler, thoughts on the Dogs?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that they struggled to get anything going on offense. That Derek pointed that out. That pick was huge. Like it was third. I think it was 3-0 Kentucky, and then it's a rolling pick, and it did hit the ground. Don't get me wrong, it was the right call. But if that play just turned, that could be 10-0 Kentucky, and we could be talking about a whole different ball game. But I was very impressed with the way Mark Stoops played. His team played. They responded after a terrible week. I was not impressed with Carson Beck. Once you all know, I am not a huge fan of Carson Beck. I think he's a very overrated quarterback. He just plays in a very, very good system. But that's for another time for another. But at the end of the day, Georgia, sometimes games like this can help you along the season. You build your character, and you guys do realize that like, we're not invincible. Hey, we can be beat by inferior teams as ourselves. Then you just always you don't play down your competition year, and you just continue and continue to get better. So I think sometimes games help you.
Cody?
Yeah, well, after watching Florida for the last 3 years, I'm glad to see a coach with a pulse. He got obviously Kirby Smart got fired up on the sideline, started ripping, anybody from the water girl to the guy that just cleans the whiteboard off. But I gotta love it, and that's what it takes to win and win national championships. I'm gonna say this. Kentucky, hats off to you. I think that the dogs went well, drank a little too much, a little reckless driving probably in the rental cars. I don't know. I'm just going to say this. They did good, but they still squeaked out a win, and that's what national championship teams do.
If I'm anybody else, I'm watching that Kentucky film and seeing what they did on defense to shut down Carson Beck and that offense of the dogs. Maybe, again, it's just playing at Kentucky. It's one of those things, like you said, just a trap game where you just, in a weird way, it just finds a way to creep up on you. And Kentucky is a hard place to play. It's like Mizzou. It's just a weird
Mizzou.
Yeah, you kind of just get lost in the sauce out there. I don't know what I can't put my finger on it. It's not like a tough. If you go in NCAA, it's not like the pulse is up through the roof. It's just a weird place to play. The ground's hard. It's cold. I hear all the excuses, but again, ultimately they got it done. Great game. It was fun. It's fun because everybody's looking for the number one guy to fall. Right. That's always going to keep the eyeballs locked and loaded there. And again, shout out to Kentucky for handling their business. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Shout out to Derek the Duck, Cody, and Cowboy Ty there with the big hat. I love it. A fantastic Monday mashup for week number 3. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe. We just surpassed 22,000 subs on Saturday. There was a bright side there, even though Florida got absolutely smothered. We were able to surpass 22,000, and the ship is still rolling. I think we're almost at 22,200 in just a matter of 24 hours. So this lane train's rolling, boys and girls. So all aboard this thing. We're headed to the Holy Land. Again, if you guys enjoyed it, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe. This show is brought to you by BetUS. We hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.